All right, we're live, Marco.
We're live. Hey, everyone.
So today we are streaming as part of the 12 Days of Proko event, but here on Marco Bucci's channel. There's just too much good stuff. We couldn't contain it all on one YouTube channel, so we had to come over here. You know how that goes.
Too powerful. Too powerful.
Yeah, this timer tool is too good. But yeah, no. So today we're joined with Marco for this one. We're going to be doing some things with the newly launched Proko timer tool. So some time studies of different references that we've had as part of this actual challenge that we'll get into when we're actually doing the thing. But just know that there's a sale that we'll also mention. We'll talk about some other stuff that Marco's got going on. But I want to jump straight into this thing. So if you guys want to find out more before we talk about it, you can go to proko.com/12 days to find out some details, how you guys can share your drawings, get some prizes and stuff like that. But I want to get us right into Marco drawing. So Marco, do you want to do this thing?
Well, let's do this. I think I remember how to draw. We'll see. It's been a few days. No, actually, this is actually truthful. I haven't actually drawn in a few days. I've been working on a painting video, YouTube video, which will actually be uploaded right after this stream. I got a brand new video. That's all painting. So I haven't drawn in a while. So this is actually an honest look at a rough, like waking up in the morning warm up. So I've got the Proko timer here. And by the way, it's a pleasure to be streaming with the Proko crew again, even though it's on my channel. I haven't done a stream on my own channel in like 2 years. So this is scary for me. But anyway, I've got a reference pack loaded up. Yep, there it is. Yeah, it's added. And I've got 15 drawings in my collection at 2 minutes. I'll just hit start and start drawing. Basically, This is what I would always do in my life drawing days. Now, when I say my life drawing days, I still do life drawing whenever I can. But back when I was, 20 years ago, when I was first starting all this, I went life drawing religiously. I would go life drawing. I think my quota was 3 times a week. That I would consider it a failure if I didn't hit that quota. Obviously, I was single. I didn't have kids. Things were a bit different than time-wise and priorities-wise, but I could very much prioritize life drawing at that time. So in the life drawing classes I did, we really emphasized quick drawings, but accuracy still, like capturing structure quickly. So a lot of our drawings were like, honestly, we'd start with 30-second poses. I have 2 minutes here because I'm talking, but we would be dead silent and we would have the model pose like for an hour of 30-second poses. So we would just be rapid firing these poses. And what that did for me, like as a draftsman, is it really heightened my, aptitude for seeing gesture, which is what I'm doing now. This is a gesture drawing. I still have a minute, right? Like you can capture a pose quick. And the structure part, we're going to get into structure obviously in this chat because that's kind of the theme that we're going to talk about is structure. And gesture is very much part of structure, right? It's the foundations for structure. This drawing that I just did is not, it looks 3-dimensional, but it's kind of a cheat. Like there's no honest forms here, but you can see how that foundation is laid for all kinds of structure to be put on this. Like there's a cylinder here for the leg. I've got like 10 seconds left. The cylinder here. And over the years, I have combined gesture and structure like in my head. So when I draw a gesture, I do tend to embed structure in it. So just take that away.
Let's pause this one.
Pause?
Yeah. Pause
Sure.
the timer. Okay.
What's up?
So who in the chat or watching this video right now thinks that you guys would have gotten as far in that drawing with that amount of time, even while talking, as Marco did? I'm super curious.
Yeah, Stephen, by the way, I can't see the chat, so please inform me if
absolutely.
people are.
Yeah, we've got a few people in here, no one with any questions yet, but I promise that we'll bring those up if they do. One of the things that you were talking about was how useful of an actual exercise that was for you.
Yeah.
And it's like a honed skill to be able to communicate form and mass and action energy that quickly. If you guys want to give this a try, there's a link here, proko.com/timer. You guys can use this exact same tool. It's kind of the purpose of this actual, like this whole event, this whole exercise in general. I wanted to kind of like have you just show it real quick since you're doing these short poses in the beginning.
Yeah.
To show how useful this can be. And then we'll actually like see what you guys make of this.
Yeah,
So yeah,
the tool is fantastic. It kind of works. Like I said, it works exactly like this tool should work. It's so intuitive. Instantly, I wish I had this 20 years ago. Obviously, tools like this weren't around then. But I did the actual live thing where I did it from life. But if I had a tool like this, I would have even been more productive with my time. Sorry, Stephen, I cut you off there.
Oh no, you're good. I just wanted to like actually talk about that one so people know like the usefulness of it. You don't have to have a Proko account or anything like that to be able to use the tool completely free. The challenge is free and everything like that. So yeah, I just wanted you to kind of get to show it and then describe what the challenge is after that. Yeah, as a part of this challenge, you guys can enter like you make drawings in the same way that Marco is right now, and then you share those on that proko.com/12 days page. Otherwise, just hang out. Like we'll have some tips, some questions, and stuff like that from Marco. Everyone in the chat pretty universally agreeing they could not have done this that fast.
Well, I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years, so don't feel bad if you haven't been doing that. Oh, new drawing. I love timers because like I just, that drawing's gone. It's dead now. But it's part of me. Like you absorb the things you draw. And I love timers, and including, having models pose from real life on a timer. And because it encourages you to not not fall in love with your work. Don't take your work too seriously. Now, I don't mean to say don't take the aspect of learning to draw seriously. Definitely take that seriously. But the work you produce, one of my friends coined it once, again, back 20 years ago when we were doing this together weekly. I think he said it was like you draw into the garbage can. And I love that image. It's like you have a garbage can, you wrinkle up your drawing, you toss it in the garbage can. It doesn't mean that the drawing has gone to waste, right? It's still part of your learning. It's part of your visual repertoire now. And this is a tough pose. Obviously it's a down angle, so I'm struggling. There's a big C curve going through this pose. C curve like this. Maybe it turns into an S curve with that leg. And the other thing that's relevant about timers and not falling in love with your own work and not taking it too seriously is you have it just gives you the mental freedom to experiment a bit more. And you can try things with kind of impunity. It's so much harder to do that when you have you give yourself a day to do this beautiful drawing. It's so much harder to encourage yourself to just go off the rails a bit and try something. And if it fails, so be it. Like this drawing I'm doing, sure, it captures the pose a little bit, but it's not the best drawing. Like this is not what I would consider a great drawing, but it's an honest attempt at capturing what's in front of me for 2 minutes. And that is way more important, that you make the attempt in an honest way and in a non-labored way. Like you do it with, let your hand flow a bit, like get your muscles relaxed, drink some hot tea and, get your muscles flowing there and just see what you can capture, because anything is worthwhile when it comes to just like rapid firing this stuff. I'm going to skip this one. This is kind of a weird pose.
It's fair.
This is good. Okay. So this one, go ahead.
I was going to say, we definitely have, people are admiring how quickly you're able to just like knock the drawing out and then you just fully erase the thing. It's not like a new layer or anything. You're not being precious with it. It's just, it's done. It's gone.
Yeah, that's the term. Not being precious with it. Thank you. That's what I'm trying to say. There's a beautiful gesture here. Not what I did is beautiful. The pose has a beautiful straight gesture there. It's really important to capture that. Like obviously he's got the deltoid and he's got the triceps there, but that arm, the action of that arm is straight. And even the action of the top arm is straight. And if I don't capture that, then I've missed kind of the point of this pose, like the energy of the pose. Here's where I'll use a bit of form. This is the rib cage. If you guys have watched any Proko videos, you know all about the rib cage, I'm sure. This rib cage helps me figure out the complex form of the back. I think the back is for me the hardest thing to draw because there's so many muscles in the back. And in this session, I don't even care about anatomy. I will mention it when I'm using it, like the rib cage, but I'm certainly not tracking muscles here. What I'm way more interested in is tracking the squash and stretch that's happening here. So we got the rib cage, and then we've got the pelvis, and that pelvis is squished like this up against the rib cage because there's a fatty fleshy pad there. And this part of the back is stretched. So I want to get a bit, I'm going to use a bit of form there to do that. Going over the form, over the form. And then this leg is down. I'm running out of space. I should increase my canvas size. Let me just quickly go. Whoop. Yes. Can you see the whole drawing on screen, Steven?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is perfect.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I ran out of time doing all that, but I'll just quickly, there's a gesture here with the leg goes down, and that leg has a nice angle to it. Okay, I'm going to keep focused on figures, so I will skip this one.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a nice one. I'm going to switch to a different brush. This is just a marker brush. This guy has a nice gesture, and I like to draw the jawline when the head is like that. You have this kind of bottom shelf to the head, and the neck needs to come off of that. So quickly, and then the nose protrudes up. That's the extent to which I will capture the angle of this guy's head. And then the cranium has to come back. Okay. What's the angle of the shoulders? The shoulders are very rarely just straight. There's always, not always, usually some kind of angle to it. So that's the angle I'm trying to capture here. And then from there, you can kind of landmark the shoulders. Then you can, I like to use the sternum as a landmark. Back in my earlier days, I would literally draw a circle there where the sternum is. That's the area between the pectoralis muscles. And then you can draw down from the sternum to like the top of the hips, between the two iliac crests, which are the, these points here on the hips. So it's kind of like this system of landmarks. I should say that I have a new course on Proko that's just launched today. It's called Drawing for Experienced Beginners. And it's a map of how I learned to draw. And it talks about these landmarks as being extremely useful tools for mapping out the body, quite literally, and getting a sense of action in your work right away. Using basic anatomical, but it's not anatomy knowledge. It's like, everyone knows where the sternum is. Everyone knows where the hips are. That's not really anatomy, but using the most basic of anatomy points on the body to understand how to capture motion and energy quickly. And it took me a while to make this class. I wanted to kind of recall all of the tools and lessons that I used in my drawing journey and put them in the class. And that's what the class is. And I'm quite proud of it. So it's it's on Proko now. It's called Drawing for Experienced Beginners. You can check it out.
I've got a link on screen here for just where you can find all of Marco's different courses.
Yeah.
And it's just that the new course, Drawing for Experienced Beginners. Marco, will you be doing all 2-minute drawings during the stream today?
No, I'm going to change I will change the timer soon.
Okay.
This is I feel like I'm getting warmed up doing this. And
absolutely.
By the way, quick thing. Can you hear my room heater right now? Is it annoying, or can you not hear it at all?
I don't hear a thing.
Okay, cool. Then I'll
for whatever that's worth.
Yeah. Okay. If anyone can hear my room heater, let me know and I'll turn it off. It's just really cold in here otherwise.
No one tell him that he needs to turn it off. It's good right now. It is good. Let that man be warm.
It's okay. I can deal with it. This hand, there's no use drawing fingers right in this limited pose. Just get like this wedge, like boxy shape. And it's very important to capture where the other arm is. It's way more important to capture where the other arm is in relation to the first one. And if you make limbs too long in a gesture, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's way more important to evaluate how honestly you've captured the action, way more than the proportion. Proportion matters when you get into 5-minute, 10-minute, and so on. That's when you want to be faithful to proportions. But in a gesture, like I'm doing my best, obviously, I'm trying to stay in proportion. But if things get wonky, it's okay as long as I've captured the action. So like the foot, where is the foot? It's behind. See, I'm a bit off, but that's okay. That's okay. The perspective goes like this, and that foot, yeah, I'm a bit low, but that's okay.
I think this is the right suggestion. You've got the compression and the foreshortening in the the thigh and the calf, so this sells.
Yeah, like maybe the arm is just more out, more like it's more like that. That's putting it into a tone. Oh yeah, I'll skip that portrait. Let me just quickly. It's helpful, by the way, to shade in any limbs that are like just behind, like how that leg is behind the body. Just give it a little tone. Even this arm,
throw it back.
Yeah, just knock it back, and it gives it a quick bit of depth. Let me just erase this. I can probably just do that. There we go. Let's skip this because we're not really doing portraits. Let me skip this one as well. Let me just keep, this one's nice. This one has a nice, like, almost like sensitive quality to it. Like she's just touched, her hand has just touched the base of the platform there. And I guess that's important to talk about when it comes to capturing poses. You want to think about, I guess storytelling is the right word, but like I'm not trying to say like you're trying to tell some epic story, but it's like, what if this model were an actor or a character thinking something, what would the feeling be? And I think it's like she's examining a flower that she's just spotted on the ground. There's something about the quality of her pose and the angle of her shoulders here and the way she's just barely, like where the shoulder overlaps her chin there. There's something about these qualities that give me a sensitive feel. And I want to make sure that I use that as a gauge for determining whether my drawing is successful. So I'm trying to gesture down to where her hand is. I'm going to say it's somewhere there. And I'm just doing this completely by eye. Her thumb is like that. There's this quality of touch here that I want to quickly capture. There's a little shadow will help that. Then from there, I can determine how thin or thick the negative space is here. And then I'll use that negative space to help my gesture a little bit because the leg has to overlap the hand right there. And then from there, I can build out kind of a cylinder. And right after this, maybe one more drawing, I don't know, we'll go into actual forms. And then it's like, what is the distance between the bottom of the hand and the knee? You know, it's something in here. And again, I've lost time, but there we go. There's the pose. And then her hand is on her leg like that. And there is that pose. Just in the nick of time. Her head's a bit small. It's okay. Oh, this is a good one. Okay, let's do this one. And then we'll change to a longer bit of time just so we can talk about the different things you want to capture as time increases. Because that's another.
So when you were doing time studies when you were younger, was this a product of specifically just trying to get better by itself, or was it motivated by something that someone suggested to you?
A good question. It started as the latter and then became the former. So when I was 19 years old, 19 years old is when I started drawing. Before that, I didn't think I could draw. Like I wasn't born with like some kind of an inherent ability to do it, like some of my classmates seemed to be. So I was discouraged and I thought, maybe drawing isn't for me. So I picked up computer graphics thinking, hey, computer graphics are a way to circumvent drawing. I don't have to draw if I'm using the computer. Now that was wrong. That was wrongful thinking. I didn't know that at the time. I learned that though. It's interesting how I learned that was I wanted to be like a Pixar animator. This is 1996. You know, Toy Story just came out. The CG revolution was like had just started with maybe Jurassic Park, let's say, roughly in my brain anyway. 93, 95 was Toy Story. So here I am in like say 1996. I'm like, man, I want a piece of this. I want to do this for a living. I want to be a computer graphics animator or something, even a special effects guy. I was interested in all of it. So I knew I couldn't draw. At least I was resigned at the time to the idea that drawing just wasn't for me. So I started learning computer software. I pirated Softimage, which was the industry flagship program at the time. And I started learning it, and I learned other packages too. There's a package called True Space that I learned, Lightwave, but I wanted to be an animator, right? So I was building all these little characters. Oh, sorry, one more. This is a good one. These poses are too good. And I'll tell the story, then I'll move on to like longer poses. Okay, so I wanted to be an animator, so I started building characters and started trying to animate them. Of course, my animation was absolutely terrible. I could pilot the software. Like I knew how to make things in the software, but my animation was just terrible. It didn't have life. It didn't have correct movement or anything like that. It was total amateur work, as you'd expect from someone who has never taken an art class at the time. So I started looking online, and people's websites were limited. This is like 1997, right? 1998 maybe at this time. But there was a Pixar animator named Victor Navone. he did that viral video alien song where that alien's like singing first I was afraid, I was petrified. Do you remember that? Anyway,
Yeah,
it was a viral video before viral videos were a thing. He had a website, probably still does. And on his website, he was like, yeah, I'm a CG animator, but the root of my art is drawing. And I was dismayed at the time because I'm like, oh, this guy can draw. Like that, I have to know how to draw to be a computer animator. That sucks, because I thought I couldn't draw, right? But he's like, on a blog that he had on his website, he's like, you can learn to draw. He was taking classes with Jeff Watts. I'm sure you guys are, obviously Stan was a former student of Jeff, right? And you guys have Jeff all the time on the site. So he showed on his website his drawings that he did under the tutelage of Jeff Watts. And I was like, wow. And they were all figure drawings, right? They were just like this, gestures, renderings, and stuff like that. And he's like, this forms the basis of your animation knowledge because it gives you things like capturing weight, capturing life, understanding poses, all these things you need to pull off convincing animation. And I was like, oh, okay, so I can learn to draw. I'll just pause here just for a minute while I finish the story. And I started looking into life drawing classes. Now, at this time, I had already been rejected from Sheridan College, which is the local college to me. It was actually quite famous at the time for their animation program. I got rejected to that because I didn't draw. I couldn't get in. But I was able to find this little life drawing studio up the street from where I did go to school. I went to film school, and he offered life drawing classes. This great artist named Nick Kalislian, still a great artist, still in the business. And he taught... He did these like 12-week classes. They're very short. So I took 2 of them. So 24 weeks total. One was on like the short poses like this. And then one was on like building shapes and forms. And I did those classes, and just a switch turned on in my brain. Like I saw the improvement. I'm like instant improvement, because he was reprogramming how I learned to see. Reprogramming how I saw. And then that fueled the drawing, right? Because I could suddenly put these things into my drawings. And that changed my life, really, because suddenly the computer stuff kind of started going out the window a bit. And I wanted to be, at the time, a traditional animator, like a Disney animator. And then from there, I discovered painting, and that's a different story. But drawing has always been the root of what I do. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that's something that if you know me from my YouTube channel, you might not know that, because a lot of my YouTube stuff is painting and color, and I love that stuff. It's a different topic though, but it all has begun with drawing. And as you can see just from that session, hopefully, that I'm quite passionate about capturing poses and, getting things in the right place. Where is the pack? Hang on. I have to just add the pack. Sorry, Stephen. Oh, here it is.
Yeah, it should be there you go. The current days one.
Okay.
Yeah, that was something that I didn't know that it was something that you did more, because I've typically, like you said, only seen a lot of your like light and color kind of work.
Yeah. So, drawing has always been something of great interest. I'm just trying to find one that will allow me to like build some forms, and I don't want to get caught up in anatomy. So let me just see.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these are good.
There are a couple questions that people had.
Please. Yeah.
Like art basics, whenever you find one.
Yeah, please go ahead and ask one. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see here. Actually, this one is about the course, so we'll get this one out of the way first.
Sure.
So is the new course on Proko the same content that is on your personal art store, or is there new content?
No, it is the same class.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Rick, and you got your answer.
Yeah. Proko.com gives you other incentives, though. You have the community, you have like forum posts, things like that aren't offered elsewhere. But
yeah. You guys can ask like specific like help questions associated with the course and stuff like that. That's really handy. Okay, so for the actual questions people had asked here.
Yeah.
People that my cat asked, how do you work out perspective? I've tried it, but I always struggle.
You know what? I will save the answer to that for this stream, but a little later, because I will talk about that. Okay. And I'll do visual stuff. So let's table that. Good question. I will get to it. I promise.
I'll put a star on it.
Cool.
Let's see what else have we got. How do you really get that style that gesture drawings have? They all have that look to it.
It's the free flow of your hand. You've probably heard draw from the shoulder kind of thing. Now on a tablet, which I'm using here. It's hard to draw from the shoulder because it's a small surface, but I've learned to kind of use still broad strokes. It's almost coming from my elbow now. Whereas when I was in front of big newsprints, like 18 by 24 inch newsprint, it would come from the shoulder, right? But even if it's coming from the wrist, try and get that flow to it, and don't stress about the marks you make. I should be drawing here. Let the marks just happen, and just go with it. You make a mark, like you notice I'm never undoing, right? Make a mark and go with it. Let it be on the page, and that is confidence. That's what gives your drawing the look of confidence, is when you can make a mark and work with it. Obviously, if it's terribly incorrect, still don't erase it. Just make another mark that's closer to correct.
Yeah, commit to the things. Just power through it. It makes you work with the marks that you have made. It's kind of like the practice that people recommend of drawing with a pen.
Yeah.
It makes you place things with purpose, or otherwise work around the mistakes that you've made.
Yeah, I know that's a Jeff Watts thing. He likes to push, well, not push, that's the wrong word. He likes to promote inking for that reason. Like, make a mark and it's ink. You can't change it, like traditional inks, right? You can't really change that stuff. So you can only add to it, or like disguise it maybe with other strokes. Anyway, so here, just to quickly talk about what I'm doing here. As you can see, I'm still very gestural. I mean, 5 minutes is still fast. A quick pose, I should say. But I'm trying to be a bit more structural. Like, there is where the rib cage ends, right? You can see it on the reference. Here is like, I'm thinking about this rib cage. There's the sternum. So I'm thinking about these forms a little more. The stomach comes in to hit the navel there, and then comes out. I'm trying, and then the fleshy pad here, I'm trying to build these forms, a bit more faithfully, because I have the time to do that. I can throw in a little shadow here where the arm, collides with or overlaps the rib cage. This arm, I like to, again, give the back arm a bit of a tone. It just throws it back there. This arm, the forearm as well, obviously. Don't get into drawing hands anywhere below 10 minutes. Like, it's just not worth it. I have experience enough to do quick gestures of hands, but like, if you're not comfortable with that, don't worry about hands. Just block them in as like, here, do this, like block it in.
Yeah. Throwing a box or a ball. It's fine.
Yeah, box or a ball. Maybe like where the thumb is, like get a sense of where that thumb is, because the thumb actually contributes a whole lot to the position of the hand. Like our wrists are very rotatable. So the thumb can help you locate the hand. Okay, so the leg now. So the leg is basically a cylinder. And after this, I'm going to slow down even more and talk about these forms. The leg is basically a cylinder, but there is there's this part, the bread basket part, I think is Stan calls it in his video, that is behind. And then this part comes out. I will talk about these overlaps right after this, because it's actually to do with the question about perspective.
I see. I did want to answer. So there's a couple people in the chat here asking about the challenge. I think they're coming in kind of late. So today we're doing a quick sketch drawing challenge. A drawing challenge, timed quick sketch, but it's based in the new timer tool that Proko has. It's a free challenge. You can win some drawings, win some different courses, some markers, some Wacom products. So yeah, you can find out more about that at proko.com/12 days, or just go over to the timer tool. Short answer is there's different themed drawing days. Today, we're letting Marco take us through some powerful gesture and structure drawings.
It is a powerful pose.
Indeed. The man's struggling. He's like speaking to forces on high.
Yeah.
Got a lot going
on. Okay, so let's talk about building structure. Now I'm going to stop this session here, and we were going to talk about perspectives, just so I don't lose the thread on that question. And after all, structure is a major theme of drawing. My class obviously has structure as a huge theme, and I want that to be prevalent here today. Okay, you need to know a little bit about perspective grids. Now, not to the extent that you draw backgrounds or anything. That's in the class too, by the way. But in today, let's say I have a horizon line, which is the eye line, and there is a vanishing point here. You guys already know that the vanishing point radiates lines out from it, and giving you a perspective grid. This is 1 point perspective because it's just a single vanishing point. And 1 point perspective means that these lines are parallel. So we can ghost ourselves in a little bit of a perspective grid. You can see the depth, right? Now, the thing to know, the first thing to know about perspective, and honestly, I think this is under taught. I have, at least for me in my experience, I have not seen this taught as much as I think it should be. The horizon is your eye line. I think that's not under taught. People know that. But that means that the horizon is exactly in line with your eyes. Anything above the horizon is above your eyes. Anything below the horizon is below your eyes, which means that if you have a cube, so let's say I'm going to draw a little cube here. Obviously, I follow the perspective lines to do this. Vertical lines are straight and parallel. So I have my little cube here. This cube intersects the horizon line, which means the top of the box, we can't see it because it's above our eyes, so we can't see the top. And we can't see the bottom plane because it's below our eyes. So we have this perspective. But if we put the cube up here, if the cube is above the horizon line, we can see the bottom of the cube. This sounds, I know right now this sounds pretty straightforward, and I think everyone kind of knows this intuitively. The reason we see the bottom of this cube, like this face here, is because it's above the horizon line, so it's above our eyes. Now, here's where this matters. Let me instantly show you why this matters. Let me create a new session. Let me go back to some photo refs. In fact, I kind of want to find that same powerful pose that we were just drawing.
If you pause the pack,
oh like, yeah, good
idea. Pause the timer, you won't have to do the initial setup each time.
Good idea. Thank you. Actually, you know what? This is good too. Let's pause that. Okay. So we have this in our head, right? And I'll keep doing it. When I'm looking at this model, you guys just saw me gesture through it, and the gestures captured the camera angle, right? The only reason I was able to do that is because in my head, what I'm thinking is this. I'm thinking that her torso, her rib cage. Well, no, before that, where is our eye line in this picture? What intersects your eyes? Well, it's probably the bottom of the stool, like right here. Like you can see my mouse, right, Steven?
I can see a mouse. It's not moving currently if you're moving it.
Oh, it's not moving. Okay. How about now? Is it moving? Is it moving now?
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. It's weird. When I use my tablet, it doesn't move. My eye line, I think, if I had to guess, is about here. This is where the level of my eyes are. So anything above that, which is like the entire figure, she's above the horizon line. The horizon line is based on where your eyes are. It's not a universal thing. It changes for every individual. If I'm up here, my horizon line's here. Another person's down here, your horizon line's here. The horizon line changes based on your view. So she is above the horizon line, which means if I were to imagine a box that captures her torso, that box, here, I'll draw a horizon line. I don't even need a perspective grid. That box is way up here. It's way up here. The bottom of that box, we can see the bottom of it. If I just isolated it to a box, I'm not trying to draw the hips or the legs or anything. This is just like her torso. That box would look like this because it's way above the horizon line. We can see this is the angle we can see it from. Now, and here's the bottom plane, right? If you didn't have the horizon line concept in mind, you might not intuitively get this. So from here, but this is everything, because from here, if you look at like like a sports bra, whatever she's wearing there, this wraps around like this. It goes, let me use a different color. It goes around the form, around, and the back goes like that. And that's an ellipse. Ellipses are just like boxes in the sense that they respond to the horizon line. So a circle at the horizon line, it looks just like a flat line. There's no depth to it because it's exactly in line with our eyes. Raise that ellipse above the horizon line, and you have, you have the underplane. Put that ellipse below the horizon line, and we can see the top face. This is the concept of cylinders, right? We draw an ellipse for the top of the cylinder and an ellipse for the bottom of the cylinder. And the way that these lines go, let me get a color. The way that these lines go, top line, bottom line, that curvature isn't arbitrary. It's based on how far you are away from the horizon line. So for example, if I were to reduce this size of the cylinder to put it there, I'm pretty close to the horizon line here, right? This line needs to be straighter because like I just said, at the horizon line,
more in line,
everything's just straight. Whereas this bottom ellipse, if I can go behind it, we were always encouraged in life drawing class to draw those dotted lines behind the form. It kept us accountable for the forms. And the same with the top, right? The top would look like this. roughly. And that would be a let's say a visually accurate interpretation of perspective. When I say visually accurate, I'm not using perspective grids. There's all kinds of tricks to actually figure out technically exactly how these ellipses go. But like, who has time for that in a 2-minute pose? You just don't. And it's not the point. Learning tricks, perspective tricks is useful. And honestly, I actually don't know that many of them. It's useful to know them, but and I don't really know them. It's way more useful to be able to intuitively say, okay, this cylinder is, well, here, I'll just draw another one. This cylinder is going to be this high. So this ellipse relative to that ellipse needs to have a more like convex curvature.
Yeah.
Whereas if the cylinder ends here, which is in line with this one, that curvature has to be, roughly the same, like visually the same. Mm-hmm. And there, that's how you think in space. So let's apply this immediately to the pose that we're looking at. Let me just get rid of those. I'll keep the horizon line there just so we kind of know roughly where it is. Her shoulder is up here. And I think what I'll do is I'll just kind of ghost out this box because her arm overlaps it. And her arm is here, and I got a ballpark where her elbow is. It's about there, little landmark to where her elbow is. And I'm going to draw the cylinder, and that comes down. Here's her wrist. And we did this all the time. We would landmark. We called it landmarking. We'd landmark where we're going to draw to. Then we would kind of like rehearse the stroke, kind of do this. You see Glenn Vilppu do this a lot. I know you guys have had Vilppu on your channel as well. Mm-hmm. I learned, my teacher was a student of Glenn's, by the way. I left that out. Oh, okay. So my method of learning to draw is directly from Glenn Vilppu. And you see Glenn do this a lot. He'll landmark where he wants to go, where he thinks he wants to go, and then he'll rehearse the stroke. And then, slowly but surely that stroke comes into existence. Mm-hmm. And so, from here, I can say, okay, the inside of her arm is about there. It's a bit higher than the elbow, just looking at the reference. But the reason it's higher than the elbow is because that cylinder is way above the horizon line, guys, right? So it has to go like this. So now I have enough information to construct that cylinder. There it is. And I can build, I can further enhance the three-dimensionality of this drawing by, ballparking in and ghosting the backs of these cylinders for the arm. The elbow is right there. And then I can do the same thing for the forearm. I start with a cylinder. I'm going to taper the cylinder because the wrist is thinner than the elbow area. So I'll taper the cylinder down. And then I will draw another cylinder. Notice my curvature is getting a bit flatter here because we're coming closer to the horizon line. I will draw that end of that cylinder, the end cap there. And then from here, you can lay on some semblance of whatever shape you want. The forearm muscles, for example, the ridge. That's not the ridge muscle, whatever that muscle that is. The forearm muscle names are complicated. It doesn't matter though. Everyone knows the shape of the forearm is like, that curves like that. So you can get some semblance of the curve. And I'm just looking at the reference for this. You can lay your shape on over top, and then you have your hand here, which I'm just going to reduce to a box right now. Just something like this. And, from here, we're kind of building this drawing haphazardly, like it's not connected. I'm not doing it all at once, so I'm just going to fix up a few things here.
Yeah, this is indicating concepts versus going for perfect drawing right now.
Yeah. Obviously, in the drawing for experienced beginners, we tackle a pose start to finish. Right here is like, rapid firing concepts. There's an arm behind here, but it's not much to talk about because it's so hidden. Let's figure out where the hips are. The hips are another box, but again, because we're so far above the horizon line, we can see the bottom of the hip box. I just ghosted out the bottom of the torso box because the hips are going to go about here. Now, there is a gap between where the bottom of the torso and the top of the hips. There's like your stomach there and these fleshy pads on either side. So make sure that your torso box is not too long. You need that room right in here to get that connective tissue there. So the torso box goes like this, and we can see it goes behind the arm. Again, it's pretty hidden by the legs, but it's something like this. If I'm kind of extrapolating here, it's something like that. And then on top of that, and another good discipline is drawing behind things. Like you notice I'm drawing this box like as if this arm doesn't even exist. I'm drawing right behind it. We were heavily encouraged to do that in our life drawing classes. My teacher, Nick, always encouraged us to do that because, again, it helps keep you accountable for the forms that you're creating. So you know where everything is. So like the leg is, this box is a bit in the wrong spot. The leg is somewhere out here, and it is a very foreshortened cylinder. So I like to draw the first cap, then the kneecap. Like the cylinder has two caps, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can connect them. And then from here, finally, we have a cylinder that goes this way because the leg is bent, the knee has been bent back. So finally, we can see actually the top of the cylinder here as it goes down. And this one finally goes down beneath the horizon line, and the end's about there. It's foreshortened as well, so the bottom of the leg looks a lot longer than the top. I'll just shade this in so you kind of know what I'm doing. I've basically drawing this as if the knee is not even there.
Yeah, just as a mannequin.
Exactly, yeah. And I'll just ghost this out.
And for this, is it something that you're consciously doing as you first look at drawing a gesture, where you're finding that horizon line and then building everything off of that?
Yeah, I have, I have enough experience where it's just intuitive now. Like I don't consciously think about it, but that's why I'm bringing it up because it's in my brain. Mm-hmm. And there was a long period of time where I had to consciously think about that. And honestly, I didn't know about it for a long time. Like I said, I think it's kind of underutilized, this idea of knowing where things are compared to the horizon line and, cross contouring your way around these cylinders. These lines are called cross contours. That's how I learned them. So like this leg, right? I'm going to cross contour this cylinder and I'll go behind it with dotted lines, right? And I'm just trying to keep myself honest. Like, what is this form on a basic level, which is the structure, right? Structure is that basic level underneath the anatomy, underneath the rendering. We all know that. The other thing you can think about is instead of cylinders, go back to the box. Boxes, I think, are a little more useful than cylinders because they have very clear planes, top, sides, and bottom. So like, what is the planes of this box? We can't see the top plane because why? Because she's way above the horizon. That leg is way above the horizon line. So we can't see the top of that box. That means we can see the bottom of the box, and it would look something like this. Obviously, it's hidden by the chair, right? But a big part of understanding this stuff is trying to see through things. So like this leg here, we can see the top of this box because the leg is rotated down. So yes, that leg is this leg is above the horizon line, but it's rotated down. So like my hand, you can see the bottom of my hand right now because it's above the horizon line. But if I do this, you can see the top of my hand because I've rotated it down, right? Mm-hmm. So that adds a bit of complexity as well, the rotation of these forms. And then it's always nice just to pick a face and shade it in. Bottom face, the side face, whatever one. You don't have to be consistent. We're not trying to light this thing. Don't worry about light direction. Just pick a face, shade it in. Here's the box for the bottom of the leg.
Someone did ask a little bit of a follow-up question. Also, I just want to point out Stan is in the chat right now, not making drawing basics lessons like he should be.
What's up, Stan? Get on that, buddy.
But you know a thing or two about having to work hard on putting out video lessons, right?
Oh man, lessons, they take so much out of me. I don't know about anyone else. I don't know about Stan or you guys. After I finish making a video, I am just fried for a couple days.
Yeah, it can take a lot for sure. Yeah. But you knock this thing out, and that'll be coming out right after this live stream, right?
That's right. I have a YouTube video coming out right after this live stream. It's on painting skies, completely different than this. We're going to paint some skies.
Now that you guys have learned how to like actually draw the figure and everything, now you need some background.
Yeah. So okay, let's skip ahead. We are I've made the point I want to make with this drawing, and let's do more construction now. Like more like beginning to end construction. That was like I put a piece in, then I talk, then I put another piece in. Let's actually go and say like.
So here, this is a little bit like a refresher of the thing that you mentioned at the beginning of it. Yeah. Just kind of buttoning it up with that opening concept again. Matilda was asking, how do you determine where horizon line is? When I look at the pic, I'd place it below the chair and the platform.
Yeah, like I might have, you might be right. I might have put it too high. the point is where if you put it there and if you put it down below the chair and I put it here, it actually makes no functional difference because the figure is still way above it. Mm-hmm. As long as you get that, what's above and what's below the horizon, then you've got it. At this stage, you're good. You're good to go. So for here, I'll use my mouse here. Where is the horizon line? I don't know for sure. I would literally have to be in this room and like draw a line with my hand. But I think it's probably somewhere here. I think that's where my eye line is, which means, and it makes sense because look, the hand is on a flat surface and we can see the top plane of the hand. So that indicates to me that the horizon line is just above those hands, just above it, somewhere around there.
When we can see the way the foot is also, the bottom of the foot, the toes, that's pretty flat.
It's pretty flat, exactly. And we can, and we can see the top of those toes just barely. So that means the horizon line is probably just barely above those feet. So like, let me, I wonder if I can quickly do that. And
I believe in you. I've seen you knocking out drawings in this. So
I just want to grab this so I can actually draw on it. Yeah. Boom, more layers here. Okay, perfect. Got it. Okay. So in my head, as I'm quickly evaluating what the perspective is, I've already put forth that the horizon line is, I think, there. Oop, I think it's about there. It doesn't matter where the vanishing point is because these forms are not linear. They're not conforming to a vanishing point. So the vanishing point doesn't matter. What does matter, though, is the relationship of where things contact the ground. Keeping in your mind this relationship. And this is what I got wrong in my gesture. I was close because it was a 2-minute gesture, right? But when I work on this drawing now, which I'll do in a second, this relationship is critical. That in combination with getting your horizon line correct, forms above and below the horizon line, that in conjunction with where things contact the floor, that gives your brain perspective information. It's like I was talking about learning visual effects before, right? You guys have heard of motion tracking, how like people shoot a shot and they want to add the Hulk to it. So they have to track the camera. That's what tracking software does. It maps out marks on the floor or in your scene, and it compares the relative distances of them over different frames. I feel like what I'm just doing here is like I'm doing some visual motion tracking, and I'm saying, okay, if I get that perspective shape in, that is going to give the viewer a sense that we are close to the floor. The viewer is close to the floor. So I'll draw this now. Let's see. Let me just, sorry, my layer's on the other screen, which I'm not used to over here. Okay.
Oh, is it the little text pop-up window?
Sorry,
was that the thing that was on the other window or on the other monitor?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's the worst when that happens.
Usually I just do the, okay, whatever. I'm here now. So we have, let's see. So let's draw this. Okay. We have 6.5 minutes on the timer. Perfect. Let's talk through the structure here. I like to block in the heads as just this kind of thing. Let's get maybe where the ear is and get the eye line, which is, it's kind of like this. I might be wrong with that. I can always change it. Remember, you can always change it later. If you won't know if it's right until you start putting things up against it. So let's get a gesture here. There's a beautiful, an obvious, and I would say beautiful C curve that defines this guy's pose. His arms are very gentle C curves, like a C curve like this, a very gentle C curve. This arm is as well. Now, this is obviously the gesture phase. And I want to make sure, even in gesture, see, I'm doing some cross contours there. Even in gesture, I'm trying to figure out where my cylinders are, where some of my boxes are. I want to figure out, at least take a stab at where this guy's leg intersects the horizontally. So I'm looking at the elbow, which is about here. I'm looking at the top of the leg, which is about the same thing. And I'm saying, okay, visually, I'm like, that's about where it is. And sometimes I'll draw a plumb line. I call these plumb lines, where you just, draw these connector lines, measurement lines. Other times I'll just eyeball it. This arm is about there. And where is the other knee? It's about there. This arm needs to come back a bit. And in gesture, we have the freedom to do all this, right? Now the foot is here. And I know that shape, I'll put it in blue. I know that shape has to be like this. That will capture the perspective if we get these contact points on the ground. So that's great. And the nice thing about gesture, obviously, and if you do these, if you're working digitally, do them in a different color because it'll kind of keep track of what's gesture and what's, progressing from that. The neck is also a cylinder, which comes out here, connects to the cranium up there. I like to put in the indication of a jawline somewhere, because the jawline is right in the middle of the head there. So it's like somewhere in there. I'm not going to even try and draw anything resembling a portrait. That's not the point. But we can get indications of proportions, though, like the eyes being, in the middle of the head and the mouth being somewhere here. But any kind of likeness is not even the point. So shoulder, I'm not even thinking anatomy. I'm thinking cylinder. So that shoulder is about here. That cylinder is going to start. There's the top cylinder cap, the cross contour. We're seeing it's above the horizon line, so we can see the bottom plane of that cylinder. That's the bottom. I'm going to be faithful to my gesture. I think the elbow is about there. We're getting closer to the horizon line now. The cylinder gets flatter, and we come down. Obviously, I'm missing the biceps. Like, I'm not trying to draw the muscles. I'm just drawing the cylinder. And then we come down. There's a bit of foreshortening on that arm, so it's a bit long visually. We come down and we hit about this mark here. Now I know that if I'm committing to that, then I basically know that this arm needs to end there. But I'm not quite ready to do that arm yet, because I want to make sure it's feeling connected to the torso. So let's get this, figure out where his sternum is. His sternum is hidden by the arm, but if I had to visually figure it out, it's in the middle of the body. Obviously, the sternum's right in the middle of your chest, which is in line with the pit of the neck, right there, which is the middle of your clavicle bone. So if I ballpark where the clavicle is, I can just go down from there and find the sternum maybe. And then from there, I can kind of build out a rib cage. And from there, if I know I'm roughly in the right spot, I can.
Stan said, "Good call, starting with the gesture with this one."
Yeah.
We do have some comments here in the chat. I don't know if you want to keep breaking down the things that you've got.
Oh no, yeah, hit me with comments, Stephen. That's priority, I think.
Yeah, I think like you've been deep in it, so I've been hesitating to interrupt you.
Yeah, please interrupt.
Yeah. So let's see which one here. So Cosmix was asking, how do you match your lines on the page to the lines you see from the reference with intuition? I think you were talking about it a little bit with your comparative measurements.
Mm-hmm.
But is there anything else that you'd want to say about this?
I guess the main thing I would say is I don't pay much attention to the lines that I see on the model, like the contour lines, like the fact, here, I'll use my mouse here so you can see. Let me just pause this, because again, we're talking. The contour line goes like that, then it kind of comes down, then it kind of goes up, and then it kind of comes down. That is meaningless to me. We got to simplify that. It's way more important to, especially in like a quick drawing like this, to get the idea that the rib cage is the underlying form. The rib cage is almost unavoidable. You need to know where it is, because it's such a big form and it's a big round form. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's way more important that there is a round mass here that comes down, that terminates about there, and off of that comes the fleshy pad right here. So it's like the rib cage comes down. You could even draw through it. Like you could even like, so this is again thinking structure, ignoring the lines on the model and saying, okay, this rib cage comes through. It turns under here, like it's an egg shape, right? It's about like this. So off of that rib cage, like right at this junction point right here, the rib cage ends and this fleshy pad begins. You can even do this thing, this animation overlap thing. This little accordion effect is how I learned it, how I called it. It shows you perspective, and that's another perspective.
Overlap is important. Yeah, overlap just in general, whether that's different forms or within one form itself.
Exactly. So like, watch this. If I'll get this wrong. If I do this, there's no real sense of overlap. That looks more like a flat shape. But the second you do this, you add this accordion roll here.
There's a whole video about this on a couple of YouTube channels.
Oh,
Some people call this a bean.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, you guys and your robo beans. For me, it's the accordion effect. This has implied two forms, two little spheres, right? One, the red one that I'm ghosting in, the red one is in front of the blue one. And you know, you can get a lot of squash and stretch with it, a lot of movement, a lot of form. So relating this back to the figure here, let me just erase this so I can do it from fresh. Instead of making your line look like that, do this. Draw through the rib cage. I mean, when I say through, continue the rib cage as if it's visible to you, like here, and then get this like accordion, because the rib cage is in front of the hips, in front of the flesh pad. So get this accordion effect, or the robo bean, as you sort of call it.
We got bean, robo bean.
Okay, yeah, accordion effect. And now it's much more dimensional. It's not on the model. It's not on the reference, but structurally, this is what's happening. And I guess the possibly the biggest hurdle that I ever had to jump with drawing was divorcing myself from the model's literal nature. The first time anyone draws, and probably unless someone is there to help you break the habit, you're probably going to be trying to copy the model all the time, because that's just like the intuitive thing to do. But that's won't get you far at all. If you enjoy doing that, like, hey, you do whatever you want. But if you want to truly progress as a draftsman and get into illustration and painting and concept and whatever, you got to ignore the literal little undulations of things and get into the structural part. And then, but ironically though, the structure, if you want to do a full rendering, you can get there this way. This ensures that everything is properly constructed. See, for example, I just learned at this stage of my drawing that my leg is too low. That leg needs to be higher. As you can see here, the leg is
informed by like that waistband kind of area that you've got. Exactly.
The waistband, which I did take from the drawing, from the reference, sorry. The waistband has helped me determine that my leg has to be up here. And digital is nice because I can just kind of erase things if I need to. Not erase, but sometimes if your marks are way off, I do like to kind of ghost them out, and then so I can put them up. This is in direct opposition to what I just said, where like I said, don't touch your marks. That's true in gesture, but when you're building forms and your gesture is way off, I would actually get rid of it or just quickly ghost it out and fix it a bit. There we go.
So for this, you're mixing kind of back and forth between like more gesture and structure. But we did have a question here from one person that was asking, when is it more beneficial to start with construction instead of gesture?
I would say when the pose doesn't offer much movement, like when it's kind of like something close to a more linear, straight up and down pose, then maybe you'd want to. I'll try and find one in the collection after this. That's a good question. Maybe at that point you want to forego the gesture because it would be of limited use to you, and focus instead on straight structure. And we'll, like I said, I'll try and find a pose that has that.
Okay. Yeah, I think like you were talking about earlier, one of the reasons that you had chosen to start with the structure on this one is because there is it's not structure. The gesture is that there's so much movement and life to a lot of these poses.
Yeah. And I would recommend, by the way, when you're curating reference for yourself, if you're working from photos like this, find poses that have movement and weight to them, and that are not static, symmetrical, because that's a whole other dimension of your drawing that you'll really want to develop. And then the static stuff becomes easier. You can actually find movement in the static stuff. It's very rare that you'll just get a pose it's just totally dead, right? Even static poses do have movement to them often, and getting good with gesture first will really help. I almost never start with straight construction. I'm such a gesture guy. Like, I love animation. I still think it's like my favorite art form is animation, and animation is movement. So I'm always trying to get movement in my work. And if you look at my illustrations, like, let me just quickly bring up, oh, my website's down. My website's down. That's hilarious. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm Googling myself.
Yeah,
if you look at like these poses, like even though this monster is a ball, there's still a lot of gesture to it, right? There's a lot of like, he's like a robo bean. Things are overlapping and moving. There's a gesture to him here. It's not a straight pose. Like the monster has a movement to him, and that's all from analyzing the figure. Okay, let's keep going here. This leg is a cylinder that I'll use blue so you can see it. The cylinder is there. The back of the cylinder kind of goes around, and then we have this cylinder, which is, by the way, this cylinder is kind of also the knee right here. That's kind of also more or less right in line with where I think our eyes are. So you can't really see the side plane. Like it's not that, it's this, because it's, again, in line with our eyes. So I think it's that, whereas this one's much wider because it's off to the side. And then you can even start building the lower cylinders for the lower leg. I think it's kind of like this, and that foot goes here. And if I'm still, well, I think it's okay. Okay, now let's switch to our dark pen brush and continue the forms. Now, finally, now is where I can figure out where this guy's arm is. So I was a little too far. You can see I had it intersecting the nose here. It's much closer to intersecting the mouth, and that means this should come back. So this is where, you know, when you're slowing down, and I've stopped the timer, but this is actually more useful.
You're good. Yeah.
This is where you want to make corrections. Slow down, make corrections if you have to, move things. Gesture, this, I wouldn't even care about this with gesture, but now this is turning into like a 10, 15 minute drawing. I care about this now. The biceps, the middle of the arm goes about here. I should give a shout out to Stan. I don't know if he's still listening. A few years ago,
He's still here in the chat, talking up a freaking storm.
Is he just talking nonsense on my channel? Get out of here, Stan.
He's here answering questions, doing a bunch of stuff, which I appreciate. But man, why aren't you in here then?
Hey, go back to Proko. This is my channel.
But you were saying from something from years ago?
Yeah. I had Stan do a cameo in one of my videos, and he did an amazing job. And in that video, I was calling the biceps and triceps bicep and tricep. And Stan sent me a video, be like, by the way, Marco, it's biceps and triceps. Or it's like the singular is bicep. And that was hilarious. I was so embarrassed that I got that wrong.
This is fine. This is fine.
And I've never made that mistake since.
It's one of those like hard corrections from a different teacher. You're like, oh man.
Yeah, it was an oh man moment. I'm like, oh crap.
There was one Stan a while ago. He got corrected in some video about the use of further and farther. That's a tough one. This just is stuck with him deeply. He's never gonna let that one go. It's hard in his mind. Yeah,
every now and then someone will come along with a correction that just sticks with you. That's happened to me several times. I always value those, though. I do enjoy being, as someone who likes language, I enjoy being corrected on those things. Okay, so this guy's arm needs to come up. I need to just proportions. Where does his hand? His hand is like here, and this hand is here. Okay. Let's just, this isn't lighting. This is just massing in things that are behind. Just helps give it form. Now, one thing I did do though, I'm thinking about this box for the upper torso. Well, we talked about the torso box before, right? And actually, let me do this on a new layer so I don't, there we go. So the torso box is like this. You see that that's the top plane. And then you can see I've in my shading, I've drawn the box with shading, right? I've done this. That's the box that we're looking at. And I chose earlier in this live stream, I said, choose a face and shade it. I chose the bottom face, which is like, you know, this, it makes sense because it would be in shadow in real life, which it is in the photo, but I'm not copying the lighting in the photo. I just chose the bottom face, pick it and shade it in like this. Give it a nice shade. Make sure you don't go too far in that. And you can ghost out, you know, get this arm to come forward by, you know, just quickly ghosting out what's behind it. And same thing with this leg here. This leg is completely behind, is like the back of the model. So I'm just going to fully throw this in tone. It just helps give us such a nice depth, just quick depth to it. And then from here, let's get this cylinder, which I've started to draw for the lower leg. I think that cylinder terminates, it's heavily foreshortened, so it terminates about there. And from there, the foot from behind that comes out. And I should start talking a little bit about, see, I'm a little bit off on where these forms are, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think the point of this one typically, the thing that started this is doing those time drawings where you're not like
Yeah.
aiming for super precision or anything. So you're going to be in a spot where you're correcting a little bit while trying
Yep.
to like drill into some concepts.
Exactly.
But that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, could be the nature of just like drawing and talking. Little things can still use some editing. That's okay. I'm still not far off. Make sure that you have continuity, like the back flows into the leg, like there's this visual rhythm here.
Mm-hmm.
You can see it, right? That will help you connect forms together, connect limbs together in this case that, are literally connected in the body. Make sure you are tracking. That's another reason it's so helpful to draw through forms so you can keep track of where things are.
Yeah, we had done a video recently where we have been talking about not necessarily starting a gesture drawing exclusively with a gesture or with measuring or anything, but letting the actual rhythm of the body kind of inform the placement of a lot of your drawing.
Oh yeah,
it's a pretty useful one because even if something is like a little bit different than what the original reference was, typically we're not really looking at reference to draw something exactly the same as what that reference was. If we wanted to do that, we would be approaching it with much different means for a different purpose.
Yeah.
Having that rhythm is important to sell the gesture, the movement, and the intentionality of that pose.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. I'm trying to think of, is there a question that can spur on the next topic here?
Yeah.
I think, okay, go ahead. And
do you want to keep doing time drawings, or do you want to just like work with a reference and talk about certain subjects?
Yeah, no, let's keep doing time drawings. Oh, by the way, one good way of just showing the perspective, like let's say I didn't have this map of the points here, the perspective points, just use a shadow, because shadows are perspective markers. They go along the ground, right? So a shadow is a great way of giving your viewer a perspective grid. This shadow
What's up, Michael?
Hey, Stan. How you doing, man?
Good. I'm actually going to go record my lesson now, so just wanted to say bye.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, bye. Talk to you soon.
Hi, bye.
Wait, do you want to say anything about the drawing here so far?
I think go to the next one.
Yeah, let's go to the next
No,
one.
I'm just joking.
Yeah, so these shadows are a perspective grid. Yeah. Okay. Let's actually go to the next one though.
I was joking.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. Let's talk about
yeah.
Actually, while we have a break here,
me so seriously.
While we have a break here, Marco, there's that little thing on the bottom that says that you're sharing your screen. You can hide that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
There we go. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. Like that. Okay, let's try this one. This is the one we started with.
For him to take on.
Down.
Oh yeah.
What was that?
I'm gonna have him choose one of these questions that we've got stacked up.
Oh, sure.
There's a lot.
Yeah. We've been hard drilling into the concept, so we haven't gotten to do the questions too much.
Yeah, hit me with a question.
Sorry, I'm reading. You can talk.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, this is the drawing we started the day with, so let's get that gesture going again, and then we'll build on top of it.
Oh,
Gotta be careful. She's foreshortened because we're looking so far up again. So you got to be careful that you don't elongate the torso when it's foreshortened like that. I'm looking at angles. I'm constantly plumb lining. Like, what's the angle between the head and the knee? It's like this. You can draw that line literally like I just did, or you can keep it in your head, which I often do. It's like that. Yeah, is there a question?
Wait,
I got one good one and another even better one.
I can say one good one, one bad one. All right, hit me.
Well, kind of bad.
So
the bad one is have what?
No, like the even better one.
The even better one?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, is have you ever drawn furry art?
No, I have never drawn furry art. Well, unless you count my green monster as furry art.
We'll move on to just a good question.
Yeah, let's do just a good one.
From Nico Patel is asking,
do you ever use gesture for shadow shapes? After form, of course.
Cool. Wonderful.
Gesture for shadow shapes?
Yeah.
I guess in a sense, my shape design method, like I've trained my hand over the years to be very flowy, like I talked about. So in a sense, all my shapes are very gestural, at least I try it to be. I always catch myself if I feel like I'm being too rigid, I'll kind of stop and reset. So in a sense, yes, I use a very gestural technique in my shape design. And you can,
that is correct.
I think you can see evidence of that.
You can stay on this drawing now.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right. See you, Stan.
Thank you.
I think you can see evidence of that in my painting too, where the shapes they move a lot. Like I'll very rarely draw a shape like that. That shape would become, something like this. It's got a bit more movement injected into it. All right.
Okay. So since this is the second time that you're actually approaching this particular reference, is there anything that you've kind of identified as something that you want to do a little bit different than you did the first time? Since this is a much longer drawing for it.
Yeah, no, honestly, no, I'm reacting to it the exact same. And that's a good question, though, because it's something that I learned to do is you don't do anything different given more time. You just go further. So the start of a 10-minute drawing is the same as the start of a 1-minute drawing. It's just I capture what I capture in the first minute. And then if the drawing's over, then the drawing's over. But if I have 9 more minutes, I'll go further. So no, I'm not reinterpreting this at all in a different way. It's the same mental calculations.
Okay. Yeah, I think that there's definitely something to be gained from doing one drawing where you do it for a very short amount of time and then a longer amount of time, then a longer amount of time, or the reverse. You kind of like learn to pare it down. It's a pretty good exercise.
Yeah. So here, her top there that she's wearing, her outfit it's such a nice cylinder, right? We get the ellipse there. I've got to be really faithful to that. And I got to be really faithful, of course, to this top ellipse, which from there, it helps me find how that wraps over the shoulder, right in here where the trapezius is, which is very narrow on her. So it comes out there. Again, that's a bit of anatomy. The trapezius comes out from behind the neck. It leads to the shoulders. The trapezius is the rib cage, the trapezius those are two very helpful anatomical things to know. You don't have to know every ins and out of them, but knowing what their forms are is helpful because the trapezius will help you go get to the shoulders, really. Okay. Now, let's keep going here. Where is her sternum? Her sternum is there. Her torso is heavily foreshortened, right? So it's like if it's a cylinder, it's very, very foreshortened like this. Let's figure that out. And yeah, foreshortening always has these dramatic kind of like perspective and heavy curvature to it. That line is too flat. It's got to be curved out more. There we go. And so if you were to examine like where is the midpoint of this form? Well, it's not there. That is not the midpoint. This is foreshortened, right? The midpoint's way up there. I'm just going to do this visually. This is the midpoint of a foreshortened form. One perspective trick you guys might know, if you have like a wall in perspective and you ask where's the midpoint, all you got to do is draw an X connecting the corners. Whoops, sorry. And there's your midpoint. That's one little trick a lot of people know. And honestly, that is so useful because I visualize that all the time when I draw. Why can't I? I'm on the wrong layer.
I like that you said I don't know a lot of perspective tricks, but here you are just whipping them out left and right now.
Oh, maybe a couple, but
you undersold your perspective tricks.
That sternum is a little foreshortened perspective, and knowing that little perspective trick I just showed you with the X's will help you figure that out. It's like you can almost, if it's a box like this, you can draw, well, you can kind of figure out where the midpoint is, visually. I'm just doing it visually. I'm not trying to map it out. I am definitely not the go-to technical perspective guy, like a Feng Zhu. That's not me. I'm more of an intuitive perspective. Like I know enough about perspective to use it intuitively, but in terms of like drawing a Roman cathedral with everything exactly in line, you'd have to go to someone else for that.
So you want to do some organic forms. You're a storyteller, I think.
That's right. Yeah.
I think that's the purpose of your art is different than someone who's out there just drawing, like doing architecture.
Yeah. But this is not to say that I have a disregard for the structure. I know with certain categories, like no one can know everything, right? I know enough in each category that, like you said, Stephen, kind of directs me to my art goals, which is more character, more storytelling, motion, movement, fun. So when it comes to technical perspective, I know what I need to know. And whenever I can learn more, I take that as an opportunity. I think it's great. But most of the time, a very simple tool set can get you a long way. Here's that accordion effect right there, right? You guys can see it. And the rib cage, which I should draw it for you. Where is that rib cage? So we know where the sternum is. Then that comes down, and it's it's about there. It's right on top of the fleshy part, and that rib cage is an egg that comes in. We can further break that down into a box. If there is a torso box, where does it go? Well, it's like this. We can see the side plane of it. So that box looks like this. And we can see the bottom. Yep, go ahead.
There was one question from Cosmics asking, should I practice drawing the body more in a neutral pose before moving on to gesture? They said their goal is to learn anatomy while learning to stylize and draw their own characters. Do you think that looking at something in a neutral pose or prioritizing gesture is more important?
I would prioritize gesture, just because it gets you moving forms and drilling forms more the way you see them in life, because no one really is ever really going to be standing straight, and you don't want to develop bad habits, right? You will draw the way you practice, and if you practice static poses, suddenly I think you will have a bad habit to break. I'm not saying don't draw static poses, but I would go with the gesture route on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, again, poses that have some kind of movement, which is the selection I've curated for myself here today, kind of all favors that, right? But you can still study forms just as well as you could otherwise. The helpful thing about the static pose is like proportions, because a static pose, we've all seen those Loomis diagrams where it's like the figure is 8.5 heads high or whatever, and the guy's just standing there. It's good for that. But when it comes to learning to draw, I think it's of limited use. I would go with pivot to gesture pretty quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also I think that there's something to be said for just balancing those concepts, learning them, keeping them in your head, and then just moving on from them. They're not something that you have to adhere to in some super rigid way.
Yeah.
A lot of people get stuck in that, especially when learning anatomy.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like, for example, here's a good way, to always break out of that. So like this leg here, that leg, yes, it's extended out. She's balancing on that leg, but it's not straight. There is an S curve to it. It's a beautiful little S curvy rhythm. It's a very condensed S curve. So I'll leave that there. I'll ghost it out a little bit. But when I construct the forms of this leg, here's that cylinder with the cross contour. Here's the knee. I want to make sure that these forms, so as that bottom leg pulls, let me go back. As that bottom leg pulls out, it conforms to this S curvy gesture. You see that, and then it comes in. The calf muscle is there, and then the leg breaks inward. And the tibia is about here, comes up down from the knee, and we come in. So it's like, yeah, there we go. The calf muscle has a nice bit of offset symmetry. It's the high point is here, then the inside high point is in, like this. So when you have when you're drawing this, you want to offset the symmetry of your shape there. And if the knee is about here, then the tibia comes down this way. I think it's the tibia anyway. And then you have your foot, which I'll just...
Little triangle box.
Yeah, triangle box. Yep. We can triangle box, feet and toes there. You can, the big toe comes out further. So I like to kind of indicate where the big toe is and then kind of taper it back to the pinky toe. And
I am kind of curious, when you were doing the shorter drawings, are there any particular things that you think that you use as quick shorthand for shapes?
I use offset symmetry. Yeah.
Oh no, I think you were doing exactly this.
Okay. Offset symmetry is my go-to shape design move. Again, instead of this, you do this, right? The high points are offset on an angle. I do that all the time. And nature does that. I do this because I've learned that nature does that. The calf muscle was just one example, but offset symmetry happens all the time in nature, on the human figure, in life. Human beings tend to make things very symmetrical, like buildings and stuff. And obviously, if you're drawing buildings, you want to ignore that kind of thing. But if you're drawing anything organic, like a character, you'll probably be better off if you try and offset the symmetry of your shapes. And I do that all the time. So even here, like high point, it's offset. It's not parallel with the top of the leg. It's got that diagonal feel to it. And you will get into this the more you draw. The more you draw, the more you will start noticing what these shapes are doing. Maybe we can talk about shapes coming up here right now, like laying in shapes over top of this. But laying in shapes is actually the easy part, because if you have structure, all you got to do is say, okay, like what is it that's going to say leg here? Like a leg, the cylinder would just be like the flat expression of a leg, but a leg has, some thickness here near the thigh, and then it tapers in toward the knee. Same here, but it's offset. It's offset this way. The high point at the back of the leg, is like below the buttocks here. It's, down here. And then likewise, it tapers in toward the knee. And then we can have it, I like to complete the form like this. And out from behind it comes the lower leg. And that is offset in symmetry.
Do you think that any of these things are part of just you nailing the observation of the actual image, or is this something that comes down to your stylistic preference?
Yeah, it's both. There's definitely parts that you have to be faithful to the way the human figure is actually built, and you'll see it in photos. I do highly encourage, though, anyone who doesn't draw from life, try and get out there and draw from life, because there's so much. The way you interact with the material is so different from life, because people are moving. They're not held static for you, and you will learn, I think, much more about capturing poses and weight and asymmetry. Drawing from life than you will from photo. Photos are great because you can do them on your own leisure, and you totally should use photos. I love the Proko timing tools. The Proko timer tool is awesome. But if you can, try and couple that with drawing from life. Yeah, here, I've got the boxes.
We had a video working with David Coleman where he was actually drawing animals from video. Instead of having it where he was like just looking at a photo or anything, he was drawing from video, because you get to know what that motion was before the pose you're looking at and after. Right. Yeah, and it informs some of what you're doing in the motion.
That's great. Yeah. And David Coleman is certainly a good example of all this stuff. His drawings are fantastic. So here's the leg box, right? Whenever you can, even better than cylinders, I think, are boxes, because you can understand them as basic planes. Pick a plane. See, I didn't do it here. I put a cast shadow in there. That's my lighting habit coming through. Just pick a plane like this, shade it in. If she's wearing clothes, which she is, the garments of clothing here, just shade those in too, just so you can kind of visually separate that as clothing versus what's the figure itself. And then from here, there's not much of a perspective indicator for the shadow. It's just a shadow that goes this way. And don't worry about heads. Like, I think when you're studying the figure, the head, the face is the least of your concern. Just get a basic form there that is going to, hold up in perspective. It's going to support things like the neck, but don't worry about getting the features right. That's not going to do isolated studies for that. Yeah.
Talking about the light that you had mentioned, or the shadow that you had put in there as a force of habit. Pam Pam Tam Tam is asking, how do you decide where to put the Terminator line of the shadow on the form?
Well, I haven't done any of that here, because I'm only I'm inventing the light. Like I'm doing it geometrically. So it's like, this is a box, and therefore I pick a face of the box and put the shadow at the bottom. In this case, I could have put the shadow up here. But when the Terminator stuff, you're talking about rendering and like actually mimicking light, which we haven't talked about that today. So that's a whole other can of worms.
Is there maybe a video on your YouTube channel?
If I could promote one of my videos,
absolutely, we're on your channel, Mark.
My channel, yeah. The video I made I made a video. Okay, there's two. I made a video 2 months ago. So here's where I have to quickly. I'll just show you them. Not the videos. I'll show you how to find them.
I'm going to drop a link in here.
Oh, sure. Okay.
Yeah. What was the video?
This one, the shading lesson that made my art career possible. And let's see. And
There's
then
in the chat here, we've got
Essential-
a link to the video.
yeah, that's one here. Essential values for painting, lighting, and design.
Okay, I'll drop that one as well.
Yeah, those both will answer your question about the Terminator stuff.
Perfect.
Although, kind of a spoiler alert, I don't use the Terminator idea as much as I use just light shape, shadow shape. And I mean, I suppose the Terminator is like where those two separate. But when I do shading, it's much more in terms of what's light, what's shadow, make those very distinct, and then work reflected light and work halftone. I don't really think about the Terminator in the same way that some artists do. But anyway, it's all in the videos. You can check it out.
Gotcha. Yeah. It's so hard for me. Anytime anyone talks about the Terminator line, not to like just go towards the Terminator. Like, dun, 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 dun.
I'll be back. Yeah, I love that. Oh man,
yeah. Looks like a Lowell here in the chat is asking, will this stream be available after the stream ends to watch? Marco, as far as I know, you leave your VODs up.
Oh, unless it's on by default, right?
Absolutely.
Then yeah, it'll be up. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
You are good to watch this anytime you want.
So we do have a bunch of other questions.
Oh, please hit me.
Yeah, we've been hitting the like descriptive parts in the process a lot.
Okay.
But Art of Sane was asking, my question is, do you squint when drawing? I know it's a good thing to squint eyes when painting values, but what about squinting at drawing to simplify detail and focus on form?
I mean, the physical answer is no. I don't physically squint, but I do think that could be very helpful. So I think in spirit, yes, you should, and in spirit I do, because I am always thinking about the forms. When you do something for 20 years, you learn to do it. You learn to like chunk information. So like, I'm not saying like I know I'm a master of this, but like I don't need to squint to simplify it anymore, because like I've done it so many times. I know what I'm looking for. I can almost simulate a squint in my brain. But yeah, if you're newer to this, then absolutely. If it helps you, absolutely do it. And I use like tools like that all the time. Not this particular tool, but I use simplifying tools all the time. For example, sometimes if I'm trying to figure out the values in a painting, I'll go into Photoshop and throw like a dry brush filter on it and like let Photoshop simplify it for me. And I'll see, oh, like this value is that. So like, absolutely. Yeah. One quick structural tip, just fast. Hit it. The sternomastoid comes from behind the ear and it traces its way to the pit of the neck. So a great way to find the middle, the pit of the neck, the between your two clavicles is the mastoid muscle. And then you can find the clavicle from there. And then you can find the shoulders from there. Okay, go ahead, Stephen.
Oh, no, you're fine. One person was actually going to ask this, how do you find landmarks in poses that sort of obscure them or aren't visible?
There you go. Yep, there you go. Oh, and then by the way, the I just had the name. Trapezius. Thank you. The trapezius is...
we just put out a video about this, Marco.
Did you?
Yeah, we started doing some little quiz shorts about anatomy, and the answer to the first one was the trapezius.
Ah, there you go. The traps.
Yeah.
The trapezius comes out from behind the neck. So the neck comes down as like a cylinder. Obviously, the middle of that cylinder being the pit of the neck. And then from the cranium, out comes the back of the neck. And then from behind the neck, it's very important, it's behind the neck, because it connects to the back of your cranium, the trapezius comes out. And this will help you get a bit of form. So it's not this, it's not that, right? That's not it. The neck comes down, overlapping. The trapezius comes out from behind. Another one of those little bits of anatomy that I think is really helpful and therefore kind of unavoidable. When you're learning structure, I don't think anatomy is a requirement, but there are certain bits of anatomy that really, really help understand what's in front, what's behind.
Modern Day James is here in the chat saying
hey,
he constantly squints to give him that Marlon Brando look. It's a good one. Marco, are you a Marlon Brando fan?
Oh yeah, my favorite Marlon Brando movie is The Score, which he did when he was old.
Do you want to try giving us your best Marlon Brando impression?
I don't know him enough to do it, man. I make a fool of myself. Yeah, I can't do it. But I'm sure someone get a picture of Modern Day James doing it. I'm sure he nails it. The smolder. It depends which era of Marlon Brando you're doing, though.
This is true. This is very, very true. The man changed a lot.
He changed a lot. Yeah, he's like, yeah. There's like Axl Rose, and then there's Marlon Brando.
It took me a second. I was like, wait, hold on. But yeah, that like intense later in life change.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, time can be a cruel mistress.
Oh, I'm discovering that now. I'm
You're
41. I'm discovering it.
I'm in the same freaking spot. I just hit 34, and
Yeah.
people aren't joking about mid-30s being like a turning point. It is a big
Yeah.
change.
Yeah. For me, mid 30s, late 30s. Yeah. Like okay. So I'm gesturing. Let's get, so here's where I think her arm is sorry, not her arm. I think her hand contacts the floor there. So her other hand, I just visually see it, is a bit higher than that. So it's about here. So I know I can throw a landmark right about there, maybe a bit higher, and I can gesture down to it. It's this beautiful C curve, even S curve. I think it's an S curve. You guys done videos on this. C curves, S curves, straights, right? Here, the gesture down her torso is a C curve. The gesture on her leg is a C curve. This leg here, C curve. Let me bring her more in frame here. Shoop. C curve, C curve. Yeah.
Got a C curve.
And again, this is animation stuff. It's figure drawing stuff too, but I learned this in animation where animators always use these basic curves to get those frames reading quickly. And I'm very much in the camp of an animator style of drawer, of draftsman, which isn't to say that I can't do a rendering. I could absolutely do a full rendering if you gave me 5 hours, but it's not even really in my interest. Like, I don't really want to do that. If I do a rendering, it's going to be my own illustration. And I've done several, like I did the Disney Nutcracker book that required a lot of like human rendering, and I had fun with it. But even if you look at my work in the Nutcracker, it's still very gestural. I'll show you an example. Give me 2 seconds to pull up an example, okay?
Yeah. We have a timer running, so we know when 2 seconds is.
Oh no, I lost it. Yeah, all right. It's here. Come on, folder. Oh, my hard drive's loading up. I can hear the power. Okay, there it is. Here. Oh man, here, and here. Okay, here it is. Ta-da. Oh, nope, that's not Photoshop.
It's not on this side. I don't see it.
No, yeah, I know. Because I didn't do this. There we go. Okay, you can load now. There it is.
There we go.
Okay, so if I zoom in here, okay, this is like a dancer. Okay, here's the dancer, right? This arm is kind of epitomizes what I'm talking about with someone asking about gestural shape design. Can you see that there's a gesture running through this arm? It's a series of curves. It's a C curve and then an S curve. That, to me, getting that gesture and making sure I didn't lose it, that was way more important to me when I painted this arm than any anatomy, any form. It's the gesture that led the way for me. I needed to be very clear on that. And you can see that if we were to draw this, can you see there is a hint at overlapping form, like the forearm overlaps there. That's hinted at. The triceps, it's hinted at there, but it's way less stated to reveal the gesture. So when you're doing any kind of art, especially figurative art, but any kind of art, you have to be aware that when you do something, you are possibly prohibiting the chance to do something else. You can only kind of do 1 or 2 things at a time. You can't have a gestural painting also look photorealistically rendered. Like, it doesn't really work that way. You kind of have to go in a direction. Like, you can't have a comedy movie that is also a tear-jerking drama. Like, things don't really work that way. You can have tear-jerking, you have little moments. Like, you can have a comedy movie that has touching moments, like Elf or something. But it doesn't really, I lost a, yeah, it doesn't really go the other, you can't really have both. You need to pick a direction. So, sorry, I'm just trying to navigate back to my session.
Oh, no, you're good. So there's while we're here in between drawings, we have a hot and fresh question from, this is Elizabeth Johnson asking, is it realistic for someone who is 36 and only just taking their art seriously, taking lessons, to become a professional? Yes, that is realistic. But here's the advice that I always give, because I do get this question a lot. The advice I would give you and anyone in the same boat: don't try not to put the pressure on yourself that, oh, I got to be making X amount of dollars from art in 2024. Please don't do that to yourself. The industry is beyond your control. Like, for example, 2023 was a pretty down year. Everyone reported that. Even like the industry's highest, contributors,
reported that the industry was down this year. Who knows, probably bounce back very soon, but like jobs were scarce in 2023. So don't tie any of your success to money. Try not to do that. Instead, give yourself as much breathing room as possible. And by the way, this probably implies like if you have like a different career, like try and build your art learning into an existing career if you've got one going, which I imagine you do if you're in your mid-30s or something like that. Try not to give yourself the burden of stress that comes with hitting a financial goal. Now, that's easier to do when you're a bit younger, obviously, because you're kind of, when you're young, you're still working everything out. Whereas when you're older, things become a little more pressing, and I understand that. But yeah, try and do yourself that favor, because the second you start thinking about making income, you will probably not. You will actually torpedo, I think, the learning you can do. That's just my opinion on that.
No, I very much agree. I think setting it just tied to monetary goals. People already have monetary goals while this is their exclusive job that are hard to hit. Just do some work, learn some stuff, put yourself outside your comfort zone sometimes so you can learn some new things. And then eventually, typically, the rest kind of follows.
Yeah. Here's another good
study.
Yeah. Thank you, motivational speaker, Steven.
You're really wearing a Santa hat. You got all the positive elf energy right now.
Yeah. Oh, I should really turn this around. Check this out. What? The whole time it was here.
We're an hour and 45 minutes into the stream and we see that beard.
Now, watch this little tip. The rib cage is okay. We have the sternum. Sternum's here. It comes down for the rib cage. These little wings for the rib cage. Now the rib cage comes up and it intersects, just below the her head's pointed down, but it intersects below the pit of the neck there. Now, this rib cage rhythm, there's a line here and here. You can see it in the model, right? She's lean enough, you can see it. It's a plane that kind of sets the rib cage in, and the arm, and then the shoulder bone comes out. That's the top of the arm bone. Sorry, again, the name escapes me. The top bone, the humerus, right? That's the top of that bone. So there is a nice little diagonal rhythm that kind of points sort of up toward the top of the neck that you can use. It's almost like a piece of clothing that I'm drawing that gets you to where the the humerus bone is. And then from here, I can make sure that shoulder kind of comes down squarely. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's keep drawing. It's very difficult to deliver like lessons while I'm live chatting, folks. So like I hope I'll just use this chance to say, like, I have a whole class called on Proko.com, Drawing for Experienced Beginners, that is this, but obviously like focused lessons, not me rambling.
I think
obviously
there's a little bit of like a disconnect between the super fast drawing concept and then trying to have this more like intentional structure practice from it. But people should check out that course. It's on sale right now. For how much off, Marco?
That's up to you guys.
Oh, it's 50% off right now with the code 12 days.
There you go, 50% off. Okay, so we're progressing. This drawing is looking good. Let's get the knee, or the bottom of the knee. Whenever something's lying on the floor, like the knee, I like to just use a straight. It helps get the weight to it. Cylinder. Turning that cylinder into a box. Where is the? She has so much muscle there in that leg, but I think if we were to distill it to one box, it's kind of like here. There's the knee. I'll pick the knee plane, shade it in. Look how much structure that gives the leg right away. And then that muscle comes out. And here's where the shape comes in. I'll erase this just so you can see the process. I don't know if this beard is impeding my sound.
I know you sound great. People were asking if you could still see, but I think it seems like you can. So that's good.
I can't see anything. So let me know if this is looking okay.
No. I mean, if you could see the drawing that you're doing.
No. Yes, I can see it.
Great so far. You're doing great.
The head is over here, right? Okay, no. The shape. So we have this kind of, again, in one of Stan's videos, he talked about like the breadbasket shape right at the base of the thigh there that comes out, and it kind of rolls around and wraps up to this part, the iliac crest, the top of the hip bone. The iliac crest is right there. And it, it's that hip bone shape. It's helpful to know where those 2 points are, just like it's helpful to know where the 2 shoulders are, so you can start comparing angles. These angles are not parallel. These lines are not parallel. One is a little bit steeper than the other. The shoulders are a little bit steeper than the hips. I go into this a lot in my class because comparing angles is another great way of capturing gesture. One of the number one mistakes a student will make, like a new student, is they will have parallel angles between shoulders and hips. And while certainly that does happen sometimes, it's actually usually not the case. So then from in front of the breadbasket shape here of the leg, out comes this part of the leg. And if you want, you can do a little accordion effect, but it's just enough just to come from behind and come out. That puts this form in front of the breadbasket part of the leg, the bread shape. All right, and then there's the knee, and then from now, thank goodness for our gesture. We have a roadmap for this whole thing. I know that this knee, it's not there. It's not in line with that one. There's perspective, right? There's perspective to this pose. It goes like this. That knee is here. This, by the way, was my landmark for the hand. So that's actually still correct, I think. But I'm not going to put the hand in until later this time, because the second you put a hand in, especially where a hand contacts the floor, you are playing a card. You're playing a pretty important card there. I'm going to do that at the end.
Yeah, it'll kind of like lock you into some choices.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. That's right. Make sure the hips from the iliac crest, this part here, these 2 points, the leg does not. Here's another common anatomy mistake. The leg does not come from there. It comes down. There is a hand's width from the iliac crest to where the leg is. You can see it on the model, right? Now that I pointed out. And same here. Make sure you give the hips that space to exist. It's a very common mistake in, let's say, a beginner's drawing, is to have the hips, the legs start at the wrong spot. Again, if you do that in a gesture, it doesn't matter. Gesture is about capturing movement. The second you're constructing, you want to, you want to keep stock of things like what the boxes and cylinders are doing, which is kind of like what we've been doing a lot today. But then on top of that, like I keep saying, there are some anatomy things, and I'm trying to hit them as I go. There are some anatomy things that I think are really, really helpful. And, the iliac crests and the hand's width from that, this area right here is a useful anatomical little blip that will help you. And same thing here. Here's the sorry, Steve, one last thing. Here's that breadbasket shape. Offset symmetry, high point, offset. It's not parallel with, the hips. It's offset. And from behind it, coming out in front of it, I should say, is this part. Okay, go ahead, Steven. You got a thing.
Yeah, there was a kind of like a follow-up question. Someone was asking, on that note, when it comes to different body types, how do you approach differences in their structure while still keeping the gesture?
That can boil down to shape design, really. A heavier set person will have very different shapes. So that will be part of the language you use is your shape design. But structurally, there's no difference. And that's, again, where structure is great because it applies to literally everyone. And you can caricature it. You can underplay it, overplay it, be faithful to it or deviate, caricature it. And so I lost the thread of the question, but I think the answer is your shape design changes.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer the question? I honestly can't remember the question.
So, yeah, no. So they've just been asking how to balance. You approach the different structure in keeping that gesture with a different body type. You can also kind of like, depending on what kind of different body type we're talking about, that's where I think you can also fall back on some of those rhythms that you find, rather than looking for like exclusively just landmarks, that might be obscured or different things like that.
That's right.
You've been talking about those a little bit earlier.
Yeah. Like right now I'm trying to find a rhythm for this hand. I'm trying to have a little C curve that then breaks into another C curve for the finger. I'm trying to, now that I'm actually drawing this pose, I'm trying to get the shape design to my liking. And I am not being faithful to the original. Like that's not my intent, but I am being faithful to the fact that this intersects the leg right there, kind of in line with the foot. See it? Like I'm correct on that. That's what time will give you. I'm correct with where the foot is and where the hand is. And I got that wrong in a previous drawing. So like here I am trying to get it right this time. And that's kind of the spirit of practice, right? You get something wrong, which is great. Go ahead and be wrong, but then fix it. That's what practice is all about. Being wrong and being okay with it, but then fixing it, taking the time to fix it.
Yeah. This is that thing you were talking about earlier, the draw things for the trash can.
Yeah. Draw into the garbage can. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you find yourself getting the same thing wrong all like over and over, it's imperative that you fix it, because then you're developing a habit. You cannot afford to always get the same thing wrong. Like I remember there was I think it was Morgan Weisling told a story once where like one of a student in his art school would always hide the feet in a puff of smoke.
Because he didn't want to rub life-filled problems.
Yeah, and like that's just habit forming, because if you always avoid the problem, you have a habit of avoiding the problem. So if you notice a problem that you're vexed by, you have to take the time to fix it. And I do this in my own work all the time when it comes to just vetting what I'm doing, being like, I often shortcut like the nose. The nose was a big one for me. I was not, I had a shortcut for the nose, and the nose has so many little planes in it, and I wasn't being faithful with all those little planes. And I had to stop and be like, okay, today, like here I am, like 20 years in. Today we are going to paint a nose. Every plane's got to be in that nose. Yeah. Not that you always need every plane, but it's always better, so I got my friend here, right? It's always better to know what all those planes are doing than not know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I think if you start like leaning on just shorthand things, I think people end up leaning on them because they think that's what other people whose work they like are doing. But they're not. They're typically stylizing with intentionality and knowledge of the underlying forms.
That's a very good point.
One of the things that we get all the time on the shorts that we post, because those are some of our highest engagement videos.
Yeah.
Is people saying like, no, I draw anime, so I'm not going to do that. But if you look at anime, like it's not that they're drawing just symbols that are entirely unrelated to the actual shapes. Like every style, even the most simplified and kind of like established style, those things are still informed by the shape, the light, the shadow areas. It's not just drawing the same nose shape every time.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, the second you have a shortcut that you don't know the reason behind, it's a dead weight in your drawing that you need to remove for sure. Yeah.
This might follow with what you were talking about earlier from Mishquez here in the chat. I really hope that's how you're supposed to say that. Do you have any advice on how to get rid of laziness for drawing? That might play into what you were talking about a little bit.
Yeah, that plays totally into what I was talking about. You have to be honest and auditing yourself and being like, okay, I make the same decision here with a hand or a head or a torso all the time. Let's see what other decisions are available to be made there. And that could be looking at other artists who draw very different from you. It's always helpful to look at very technically proficient artists like a Jeff Watts, for example, who draws extremely well, like probably one of the best draftsmen alive today. Look at how he draws stuff and try and take bits and pieces of what he's doing and like inject it into your work. And guaranteed someone like Jeff Watts will have made observations that probably you haven't made, because Jeff has dedicated his life to draftsmanship. And that kind of thing will help just spur you forward more so than looking at reference. Because you might look at reference and you might not see it because you kind of don't know what you don't know. Look at someone who's very structural, like Jeff Watts, and even like Stan. Like look at all these art teachers who are technically proficient that way, and say like, okay, look what he's noticing in this area that I have never noticed, and then there's your study for the day.
If someone wanted to learn how to like break things down in this way that we're talking about here, where they're actually looking at the observation of the form, structure, perspective, and all of that, is there any particular course they could possibly pick up, Marco?
Well, I just so happen to have a course new on Proko.com called Drawing for Experienced Beginners. And I was very careful selecting that title because a lot of people have experienced drawing, but it doesn't mean that you've developed the right knowledge, the right habits, the right tool sets or practice regimens. So I called it Drawing for Experienced Beginners because the course is aimed for people who maybe don't have a solid roadmap in mind for how to approach a drawing, all the various levels, gesture, form, construction. It even goes into perspective and things like that. It goes into like fundamentals of perspective and like rudiments. People might not have that roadmap, and that's who the course is for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right now, as a part of the whole event that's got us here right now, you can actually save 15% on that brand new course for like it being on Proko. That I had just had the link up for Marco, proko.com/Marco Bucci. If you guys are interested in that course, you can save 15% during this 12 days of Proko event with that code 12 days. If you guys go to proko.com/Marco Bucci, all the details will be all in the banners and everything like that. But just as a kind of a little mention while I'm here talking about things and promoting stuff, the whole reason that we're here is that 12 days event, which is a giveaway based around the new Proko timer tool that we've got that Marco's using to draw up in this left part over here. It's time practice drawing where you get different references every single day. Today's theme was, I believe, structure.
Yeah, structure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's hints where we're at with the style or the kind of structure drawings that we've got going today. But yeah, it's just every single day there's a different theme. There's only one more day left, and each day there's a new style of reference that's given where you guys will follow along with those time drawings, and then you can get some giveaway prizes. There's some Wacom stuff, some Olo marker stuff, some Proko stuff, so a bunch of different things in there. Just want to make sure you guys know about that one.
Nice. Yeah,
that stuff's free. But if you do have some money, proko.com/Marco Bucci, save 15%.
Also, on the free level content, right after this stream, I am going to be uploading a brand new YouTube video. Super excited about it. It's about painting skies. I've been meaning to do it for probably a year now. It's been on my list, painting skies and understanding why skies look the way they do. So I'm uploading that right after the stream is done. So like after the stream, check back in like half hour. It'll be there.
Yeah, it'll have done that the ages long last 5% of processing.
Oh man, yeah, that takes forever.
That's the worst.
I still have to upload it, so I still have to go through that.
For this drawing, I think we're at 1:51 right now. Do you know how long you want to go for today?
Just we should probably. I think I've hit on all the important points. Let's just go for a bit over 2 hours.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, if you want to like drill into what you're doing for this particular drawing, sure. We'll see if any interesting questions pop up. But I think most of the ones that we've gotten in the past, most of that's been answered so far. So we talked about different body types. Obviously, this guy is totally jacked, but which means his shapes will be different. But the structure is the same. So like, here's the rib cage, here's the sternum. Here's the rib cage as it flows away, out of the sternum, intersecting with the base of the neck there. Now he's got such a big muscle names. Trapezius? No, latissimus. Sorry. Oh, okay. So under
his lats.
Yeah,
his lats are huge. I don't care about that right now, though. I only care about the rib cage. The lat will go on that. That's a shape language thing. I don't even care about it right now. I care about the cylinder of the arm. Again, he's got huge triceps, but I don't care. It's the cylinder thing.
That's what I tell myself when I see buff dudes walking around too. He's got huge biceps, but I don't care.
I don't care.
I don't need that.
We're all the same. Yeah. There we go. So we're capturing it's important to get this particular type of C curve. It's a straightened C. Can you see that? It's like a bowl, straightened bowl shape. That's very important to me to get that gesturally. And then we gesture down. His torso is a nice C curve. Let's keep that in there. By the way, I do like to start with like torsos and then gesture down to the legs. But if I'm continuing my gesture, which I'll do with a different color, I'll landmark via this ellipse, which is right about at the horizon line. So it's kind of straight-ish. I'll landmark where with this ellipse where the hips are, where I think the hips are. And then from there, I can gesture down. Now his leg is probably going to go off frame here just because I don't have a ton of screen space. But let's see. Then his other leg is, I'm thinking if his elbow is here, there's only so much negative space here. So let's make sure we don't put this leg too low. Let's keep the leg high. It's about there. And plumb line, where does the knee go? It's about here. It's about there. So let's gesture that in. It's a beautiful
plumb line being that measuring concept.
Yeah, plumb lines. Yeah, just like striking a vertical or a horizontal just to measure things, which you can do just visually, like in your brain, or throw a line on the canvas or on your page. Totally fine to do that.
Just about finding the relation between two different objects on the page.
Yeah, like if I plumb line his shoulder, I think the shoulder lines up with the foot. Just visually looking at the model, I think that's what's happening. So I will plumb line this and make sure that his foot is there. And this one goes way off frame. That's okay. And if he is interacting with an object, which he is, let's also include that in the drawing, because it's part of the scene. It's part of the perspective. To me, that's just important. It's just as important. Okay, now I'll switch into further construction. I've got 5.5 minutes. This time I will be faithful to the timer. Pectoralis. And the nice thing about buff people is the overlaps are clear. You can see how that shoulder overlaps, right? And here comes the biceps. Not bicep, biceps. Thanks, Stan. There's the triceps at the bottom. From behind that comes there. There's the elbow, which kind of, again, it comes from in front. And then here's the forearm. Offset symmetry. Let's get the high points offset. And it's going to ballpark the hand. I probably don't have enough time to draw the full hand, so let's just ballpark that in. If I'm picking a box side, it's here's the bottom plane of the box. I'll just shade that in. I'm not even bothering. I'm going a bit quicker. I'm not even bothering to draw the full box. I'm just going to draw the plane that I'm shading in. So if I'm going to shade in, I'll shade in the front plane of the box, the torso box. So it's like this. Just shade this in. There we go. You get just an abbreviated bit of light. It's not meant to be rendering. It's an abbreviation for sure. Don't get too
it's informing your shape.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then we have the flesh pad going down to the hips, which I think I was correct on my gesture where the hips are. I think.
Yeah.
Again, I'm evaluating it visually, right?
Yeah,
the shoulder
this seems right.
Seems right. And again, it's okay. Like when you're doing these time drawings, you're just going to be wrong sometimes, and that's totally okay. It's important. I think the navel, the belly button, is an important landmark. And make sure that your pectoralis, your pecs go around the rib cage. They are not flat. They wrap around. It's very clear on muscular people because you can see it fully developed, and they go around the rib cage. So it's almost like a way to show perspective, is to show how those pec muscles go around the rib cage. Mm-hmm. Notice I've been faithful to my gesture. I've not lost the gesture. Here's the leg, cylinder. Okay, cylinder, end of the cylinder. Here's an intermediate cross contour for the cylinder, and then we'll draw the shape. It's got the bread box area here. It's like I like that area. It's more bulbous. It comes out, and then it has this nice little hook shape to it, something like this.
So far, I respect your restraint on that. I guess camera left, physically right leg. On the top of the thigh, there's like this big.
Oh yeah.
You have managed to not go through and just way over exaggerate that, which I probably would have.
It's just not important, right? I mean, it's cool that he has that, but and you can put it in later, like it's somewhere around there. It is a nice little, it's a nice little overlapping form. It overlaps where the knee is, like kind of guides you to the knee. So that's a good point. I will use it if it guides me somewhere. And I do think it helps. It can help guide me to the base of the knee, maybe like with this little sub shape here. Like I think that's useful. So I'm not even trying to draw the muscle. I'm trying to use it for information. Mm-hmm. And then legs that are heavily bent like this can be tough to draw, but there is a very gentle curve to them. And I like to just throw the bottom of the leg in shadow, and I'll pick the side plane of this box as well. Throw that in tone. If he's wearing some briefs there, let's throw those in a tone, just so we separate what's clothing from what's flesh. It just helps the readability of your drawing. Mm-hmm. I'm a bit too high with my hips. Remember the hand length from the iliac crest? Let's get this leg lower. It's too high. Let's fix that. I talked about that at length about 10 minutes ago. And then I'm just going to skip. There's a bit of negative space, right? This beautiful bit of negative space here between the heel and the leg. Let's make sure we get that. That will help sell this pose. And let's shade it in.
Mhm.
And yeah, I said this earlier, but I think it bears repeating that, I do a lot of, like, my main work is that of a painter. Like, I paint way more than I quote unquote draw, but you are never not drawing. Drawing is the fundamental thing you are always doing, even if you are a quote unquote painter like me. Drawing is your bread and butter. So a lot of people don't know me as a draftsman, but drawing is the foundation of what I do. And that's all, emphasized. How I learned it is emphasized in my class, and it's something I truly love. This hand is not going to happen in this amount of time, so I'm just going to abandon it.
This is the only time for gesture here.
Yeah. This is a quick gesture.
20 seconds on the clock, Marco.
20 seconds on the clock. Offset symmetry, that high point, high point's here at the bottom. Goes from behind. The knee comes in front. This comes up from
10
behind.
seconds.
Oh, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. Let's pick a plane of the box, shade it in. There it is.
Hard shot aside. Okay.
Oh, we did it. Here's the side of this box, and I already know from memory there'd be a perspective shadow going like this. I'm not sure if that was actually there, but it could be there.
It works. Yeah,
and
no, this works. This makes sense.
There we go. And there's how I would approach a different body type. In this case, like a muscular guy. It's very similar to what I've been doing, right? There's no difference in the body type. Does not matter structurally. It matters more anatomically, but not necessarily structurally. So, yeah, I think we've covered a lot of stuff and kind of given people a preview for what they can expect in the class, and a preview for what you might want to practice if you are newer to this stuff. I'm trying to just see. I'm trying to pull up other paintings. Like, I don't even know what this painting looks like. Let's see.
I did want to ask. There was one question here that I think was a good one. That we might be able to leave people with.
Sure.
Outside of the mention of everything else that we'll talk about to wrap up here. Ryan Fuller, who was a person that has been here for a couple of the different streams that we've had. He was asking, well, he said first, thank you for the stream. Do you, by any chance, have any advice for intermediate artists trying to connect with professionals so that they can dive into the same industry that they are in? Did you have networking advice?
Yeah, well, I guess I can talk about that from the other end. Obviously people have reached out to me, and I'm in a fortunate spot where people want to do that. Sometimes I think a cold email, like a cold, not cold, what do you call it? Cold calling, like an email just out of the blue, is a nice, polite one, is always helpful. In fact, a few months ago, I was taking care of my son, so I had some lulls during the day. I even took on a mentor because she happened to email me right at the time where I had some time, and I'm a teacher. I like to help people, so I took her on as a mentor. Wasn't paid or anything like that. It was just a little 8-week thing we did, and I think artists generally will give you something that, obviously I've turned down more mentorships than I've taken on, time, but artists generally want to help other artists, especially teachers. So if you email a teacher, again, time is always weird for everyone. I've got 2 young kids and demanding other stuff. There's only so much time I can devote online, but whenever I can, I love to answer people's questions. And I think other artists are like that. I've certainly had questions answered to me when I was younger. And I think in terms of networking, that can be a good start if you're just at home, but also go to events like Lightbox. Lightbox just happened last month in October. We were there, Stephen. We hung out for a bit. We did a demo with you guys. Those events, yeah.
Sitting there in that room, just sitting there while talking to you. James Gurney walked by.
Yeah.
It was just a powerhouse of people that were just going by, and you can have these casual conversations and get small get-together moments.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you'll get little nuggets from people. James Gurney hosted a whole painting event that I was fortunate enough to be part of on Friday morning, the first day. And it was open to the public. People show up and just, paint with you or watch you paint, whatever they wanted to do. So don't neglect events like that. Conventions like that are really, really, I told my wife the first year I was at Lightbox, I came home and told my wife, I have to go every year now because it's indispensable. That's a trip in the calendar now. So, that type of thing. And don't be dismayed if someone doesn't give you their time, because remember that people are busy, man. Sometimes people email me and 2 weeks later I haven't responded. And I always feel bad when I don't respond, and I always try and get to them. But sometimes people can't, or some artists aren't as good with response and words, and that's fine too. So don't get dismayed, but at the same time, try and put yourself in a position where people can reply to you, and get FaceTime with them at conventions would be my advice.
Also, like, just be on social media. Social media is the light box of the rest of the time when Lightbox isn't happening. I can't tell you how many cool projects I've gotten to be a part of because I saw some person have some interaction with someone else that I knew. And I was like, actually, you know what? I would love to help you with that thing that you're talking about.
Oh, nice.
Take a shot.
Yeah.
That's the main thing.
I should take your advice there, Steven. I'm pretty bad with social media. Like, I post things and like I do my YouTube videos like once a month, but I need to be more active on like the Discords and stuff myself.
I think you're doing great on Twitter. I think you're sharing things with your chickens, your hobbies, Twitter, and everything. That stuff's important.
I like sharing life stuff on Twitter, and then YouTube is just art. Yeah,
it's good. So I guess, Marco, if someone is looking to learn all these different things, and they're like, you know what, I just need a brand new course, where could they go to find one of those?
Yeah. You can go to Proko.com. I've got a brand new class called Drawing for Experienced Beginners. It kind of structurally goes over all this stuff, gives you stages. There's a whole study regimen you'll get as a PDF with the class. It's like 9 hours long-ish, somewhere in there. So, it kind of goes over perspective, gesture, form, construction, and the rudiments that go into that. Anyway, there's that. And you can get there. It's 15% off right now with what code?
That is the code 12 days.
12 days.
I love it. The good segue there.
Yeah. And so thanks. You guys are super cool over at Proko, Steven. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you, hang out with you, and the whole crew over there that I met, re-met at Lightbox. I've known you guys for a few years now. It's a pleasure to be on your platform, and thanks for coming to my platform for the stream. Yeah. People are watching now. Come back to this channel in like half hour. I'll have a whole new video about painting skies. I'm going to upload it as soon as I log off here. So come back and check out the video.
Is your across social media? Is that your handle Bucci blog everywhere?
Actually, Instagram is Bucci blog. And Twitter is Bucci blog. But on Twitter, I don't really do art stuff. It's life stuff. Instagram is art stuff, Bucci blog. And then YouTube is, well, you're here now. So I don't have to tell you.
Yeah, you guys know this one.
Yeah, you're here.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I think that's it. I think we're good.
All right. Can we get the Santa beard one more time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you so very much. Oh. I'm going to give you the solo cam here.
Happy holidays, everybody. I'm lucky I don't choke. I see like there's a little dangly bit. I'm going to choke on this.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.
Bye, guys. Thank you.